The air in the studio was electric, thick with the kind of tension that makes you hold your breath, waiting for something to crack. The cameras rolled. The audience leaned forward. Something was about to happen, and everyone could feel it. Carrie Underwood stepped onto the stage, owning the space with effortless confidence. Dressed in a sharp navy pantsuit, she looked every bit the country music icon she was, polished, poised, and utterly unshaken. The crowd erupted into applause, but beneath the surface there was an unmistakable charge. Tonight wasn't just another interview. She was on live tonight with Melanie Hayes, a show notorious for its sharp-tongued host and no-holds-barred approach. Melanie had built her reputation on pushing celebrities into uncomfortable corners, crafting viral gotcha moments that spread like wildfire. And tonight, Carrie was her target. But Melanie had no idea who she was dealing with. The interview started smoothly, almost too smoothly. Melanie's questions were light, almost friendly. "Tell us about your new album. How's life on tour? What's it like balancing fame and motherhood?" Carrie answered with her signature warmth, her voice steady, her presence unshakable. She had done this dance before, but then, like a predator circling its prey, Melanie's tone shifted. A slight tilt of the head, a sharper edge to her smile, the kind of look that signaled a trap was about to be sprung. "You've been pretty vocal about your values," Melanie said, her voice carrying just enough weight to suggest the question wasn't innocent. "Do you think it's responsible for someone in your position to share such divisive views?" The crowd tensed. A loaded question disguised as casual curiosity. Carrie didn't blink. "I believe everyone has the right to their own opinion," she said smoothly, the corners of her lips curling into a polite smile. "As an artist, my job is to share my truth, not dictate what others should believe." The audience applauded, a safe answer. But Melanie wasn't satisfied. She wasn't here for safe. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Fair enough," she said, though her tone suggested the opposite. "But don't you think that by standing so firmly in your personal beliefs, you risk alienating your fans, maybe even making yourself irrelevant?" A calculated hit. One meant to corner Carrie into either defending herself or backtracking. Instead, Carrie tilted her head slightly, the move of someone completely unshaken. "My fans have been with me for years," she said, voice calm but laced with steel. "They don't follow me because I tell them what to think. They follow me because I've always been honest, and I trust them to make their own decisions, just as I make mine." A subtle shift in the energy. The audience felt it. Even Melanie felt it. But she wasn't ready to give up. Her eyes narrowed, her voice dipping into something softer, but sharper. "Isn't there a point where holding on to old views just makes someone out of touch?" A gasp rippled through the room. There it was, the moment Melanie had been waiting for. The viral moment, the knockout punch, or so she thought. Carrie leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, not defensive, just measured. "Out of touch?" she repeated, as if rolling the words around in her mind. Then a small, knowing smile. "That's an interesting choice of words. You see, I don't believe that holding on to kindness, integrity, and faith makes someone out of touch. I think it makes them grounded." Silence. Then thunderous applause. Melanie's smile faltered, just for a second. But Carrie saw it. Everyone saw it. And Carrie wasn't finished. She turned slightly toward the audience, her voice steady, unwavering. "It's funny, isn't it? We talk so much about diversity, celebrating different backgrounds, different voices, different ideas. But the moment someone's beliefs don't fit a certain narrative, suddenly they're outdated." Melanie opened her mouth to respond, but Carrie wasn't done. "We live in a world where people are so quick to assume the worst about each other, to shout over each other instead of listening. But I still believe in real conversations, conversations where we don't have to agree on everything, but we can still respect one another." The studio was silent. Not the uncomfortable kind of silence, the weighty kind. The kind that settles in after someone speaks a truth so undeniable it leaves no room for argument. Even Melanie seemed caught off guard. Carrie leaned back, her expression composed, her presence unshaken. "Look, I don't expect everyone to see the world the way I do. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to share my music, my story, and yes, my values. If that resonates with people, great. If not, that's okay too. But one thing I'll never do, a pause." Then, delivered with absolute finality, "I'll never apologize for being who I am." The crowd erupted. Some stood, others whistled. Applause thundered through the studio, shaking the walls with its intensity. And Melanie Hayes, for the first time in her career, she had nothing to say. Carrie Underwood had walked into an ambush and walked out the winner. Hayes hesitated, her sharp confidence wavering. The energy in the room had shifted, and everyone could feel it. Her plan had unraveled, her control slipping through her fingers. She glanced down at her cue cards, grasping for a way to recover. "Well, Carrie," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Your passion is undeniable, and I'm sure your fans appreciate that about you." Carrie met her gaze with unwavering calm. "I think passion is something we could all use a little more of, don't you?" A simple response. Yet the weight behind it landed like a thunderclap. For a split second, the air felt charged, like everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Then a ripple, a low murmur of laughter, building into full applause. The reaction was unmistakable. Hayes chuckled stiffly, shifting in her chair, but the moment had already slipped away from her. She pushed forward, wrapping up the segment as quickly as possible, but the damage had been done. The balance of power had shifted in an instant, and she knew it. Behind the cameras, the energy was electric. Producers exchanged glances. Assistants rushed to clip the moment. Social media teams worked at lightning speed. "This is huge. Get this online now." The momentum had already started rolling, and there was no stopping it. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. The internet lit up with reactions, comment after comment, dissecting every second. The shift in Hayes' demeanor, the confidence in Carrie's voice, the exact moment the interviewer lost control of the narrative. Fans erupted with praise. People who had never followed Carrie before were watching the video on repeat. The moment had gone beyond a viral clip. It had become a conversation. Even those who weren't fans of Carrie took notice. "I didn't know much about her before, but I respect the way she handled that. She didn't just shut it down, she owned it." It wasn't just social media. Headlines started rolling in. News outlets picked up the story. Articles dissected every second of the exchange. Analysts debated it on morning shows. Some called it a masterclass in grace under pressure. Others pointed out the fine line between tough journalism and outright ambush. But while the world debated, Carrie was focused on something entirely different. Her phone was flooded with messages, friends, family, people she hadn't spoken to in years, but one stood out from the rest. "I watched your interview last night. I've always struggled to stand up for myself, but seeing you hold your ground inspired me. Thank you for reminding me that it's okay to have a voice." She exhaled, the words settling in. This was what mattered, not the headlines, not the viral moment, the impact, the people who saw themselves in her and found the courage to speak up. The conversation was spreading. People shared their own experiences of being underestimated, dismissed, or pressured to stay silent. The moment had become something bigger than an interview. It had become a movement, and while others continued to dissect it, Hayes faced the fallout. Clips of her expression were everywhere. People who had once defended her were questioning her tactics. Some called for an apology. Others simply pointed out that she had lost control of her own show. Through it all, Carrie remained steady. A reporter caught up with her outside a recording studio, microphone in hand. "What do you think of all the reaction to the interview?" She smiled, calm and unbothered. "I'm just glad people are talking about the importance of kindness and respect. That's what really matters." She didn't need to say anything more. As the world continued to react, Carrie made her next move, not another interview, not a response, but something that mattered more. She announced a donation. A portion of her upcoming tour's proceeds would go toward organizations that help young people find confidence in their voices. The response was overwhelming. She doesn't just talk about integrity, she lives it. She took a moment that could have been just another viral clip and turned it into real change. The noise around the interview started to fade, but the impact remained. The people who had watched, listened, and been inspired weren't forgetting any time soon. Carrie sat back, letting it all sink in. The past few days had been a whirlwind, but she felt nothing but peace. She picked up her phone and typed a message. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean tearing others down. It means showing the world who you are and letting that speak for itself. Stay true to you. She hit post. And just like that, the conversation took on a life of its own again. Because sometimes the strongest voice isn't the loudest. It's the one that stands firm, unwavering, with grace and conviction. And as she stepped onto the stage that night, the roar of the crowd reminded her this was never about winning an argument. It was about inspiring others to find their voice too.